go. Yo,
How's it going, buddy?
hey man, how you doing?
Not too bad. Long time no see.
Yeah, man. Jeez. I keep looking over here because I'm doing this stream from work,
Oh,
and so
nice.
and since I work at a jam space, I was telling everybody, I'm like, guys, if you need anything, just do it before 7:30, okay? So I keep hearing like all the bands keep going out for smokes. I'm like, are they gonna come in now or?
Oh man, must be loud in there.
Not that much. Like it's when I started planning on doing these, it was before the lockdown in Ontario got rescinded. So when I'm like, oh, I have to go back to work, I have to do some of these from work now. But it's all
Nice.
good.
Nice.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. So how things been, man, on your end in general, I guess.
It hasn't been, I guess, too bad. I mean, I can't really complain. I've been just trying to keep busy. I mean, I'm in Oakville, which is, I'm still in the same province as you, so it's pretty much I'm under the same situation that you are in, more or less.
Yeah, I'm just used to asking that because I think so far in the entire I think in the entire 3.5 weeks I've done this series, I think maybe you and I think maybe one other has been from Ontario.
Oh, no way.
Yeah,
They've been from all over.
Yeah, I've been trying to get more like sort of people from different places. Like on Monday we had Noah Grumman from Stardust, which they're from Israel. So
Right. That
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 was
was cool. I watched a bit of that one. That's pretty cool. That's a pretty interesting location.
oh yeah, no, and surprisingly they have an amazing scene there because not just them, but like Orphan Land and all that. They have all this really great
Yeah.
technical music there, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
we have some sup Jer, sup Chris, how you doing, guys? Before we just kind of get into the meat of it, I'll just say what I usually say. But throughout the stream, if anyone has any questions for myself or Lucas, please let us know in the comments, and we'll get to them. And so yeah, so new EP. How's how's that been so far in terms of the promotion and all that, man?
So far, I mean, we're kind of just, it's not out yet, and it's not out until April 2nd. So it's not out yet, but we've released 2 singles from it, Crawling Chaos and Deadlights. And the other, everything else is going to come out on April 2nd. So far, it's been okay. It's been interesting trying to promote this during a time where you can't go out and play a show.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm used to, maybe it's just the way I'm wired. Probably not me, but probably a ton of other musicians too. But we're probably all wired to go, okay, make the album, make the shirts, jam a bunch, then hit the road, and then play the show, and then sell the stuff at the show, right?
yeah, for sure.
But you can't do that now. And I mean, doing like a live stream kind of concert thing just isn't the same. And honestly, it's almost more work in some ways.
Yeah.
So it's been interesting so far. I mean, it's been different, and I have also just noticed like a change in the way that you can market it online. So when it's solely online, I find it's actually a bit more difficult, especially me, who I'm pretty good with social media, I think, but it's not my favorite thing in the world.
Yeah, I don't think it's anybody's, because one thing that like me personally I've had to do during this pandemic is kind of because I was pretty good with Facebook, but with all the one thing I've found recently is that with all the the pandemic and politics and all that, that's kind of taken over Facebook.
Yeah.
And around the beginning of the pandemic, when we had one of our members leave, he was the one who ran the Instagram page, so he gave it to me. So I've spent this whole time trying to learn this new thing and learn different ways to promote yourself on social media, because towards the beginning of the pandemic, I was focused on finding new members, and other than that, I didn't really do anything musically, and it was almost like a big depression almost. And then when I finally got new guys and we finally started going, I started posting stuff again, and it just wasn't showing it to anybody. And I'm like, what the fuck? So I had to like hit up some people who I knew who were like good in social media, and I was just like, guys, help me.
It's funny because we started at the beginning, maybe, I don't know, midway through the pandemic. I think we kind of went, well, shit, like we can't play any gigs, so I guess we're going to have to kind of embrace the social media thing. So we did a bunch of research, and like there was a point where we were posting like every day on Instagram, doing stories all the time as much as we could. And then, as soon as you miss like one day where something isn't consistent, it just all falls apart. And it's almost like you got to start over again. And it's just like, oh man, like, I don't know about you, but I mean, I'd rather be doing almost anything else than spending time on social media, just because, I don't know, I'd rather like write a song or.
Yeah, same with me, man. And the thing I found too is that like I've been kind of like been a bit more lax with the posting in the past like week or two. But yeah, no, it's just because like I think what it is that like in terms of content, one thing that's the most difficult thing to do, and it's one of the things I've learned, is that you gotta constantly diversify, like if you're posting the same stuff over and over, then people are gonna stop caring. So you have to start like, I remember when we were trying to like, when I started doing this on Instagram, I was like trying my best to come up with new ideas, like, oh, what can I post today? And now I've kind of figured out kind of the formula of, for us at least, of what works, what doesn't, what do people like. And like I posted a lot of playthrough videos, just me in my room playing like a guitar solo from one of our songs, and those would get between like 50 and 100 likes. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna keep doing that as well, and then do just kind of finding the whole niche thing. And that's also why I started doing these lives, because as you may know, I pretty much completely ripped off this idea from Gaia from Lyrical, because she had me on her show, and then I had her as the first episode of ours.
Oh, there you go. Yeah,
and it's been great, because not only does it help out with with each other's followers seeing each other and stuff like that, but also it's been great to be social again,
Yeah, that's definitely something that I think has been lacking, the kind of social aspect of this. I guess like doing the music thing, like the whole community sense, because I always found that I mean, you and I kind of keep in touch on social media, and me and a few other musicians do, but it's not the same as like, hyping each other up for each other's shows and then seeing each other in that setting. It's not the exact same, but yeah, it's funny, like, like we'll do it. We did a thing where I think our bass player was doing like a drink of the week, where he'd show you how to make like a drink. And like it did really great, and we're like, wow, that's pretty cool. And and it's so random, because it had nothing to do with music, had nothing really to do with the band. And then we're like, okay, that's pretty cool. And then we just, I don't know, he didn't do it again. And then we're like, oh, okay, well, maybe, it's a lot of work to kind of make this into a production, I guess. So yeah, you have to really, the thing I'm finding with social media is you really have to, it's like your branding at the end of the day. So you have to, you have to make, artwork for it. You have to make branding for it. You can't just make a post. You have to make like, those posters that you've been making for each of these live streams. You have to kind of do something more than just, but you have to give it the impression that it is as cool as just doing it at the same time.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, because like again, that's another thing I got from Gaia, because she was doing the same thing. It's sort of like all the little signatures that I put for the stories for each guest and all that. I just did it in kind of our style, And but yeah, no, I found that like it's interesting you say about the drink of the week thing, because I found that a lot of the stuff that people like are the stuff that doesn't have to do with the music. It's like a nice break. They're like, oh, these people do other things too,
Yeah, they want to know that you're people too at the end of the day. Like if you think about it, like think of a band that you're a fan of. Like, I don't know, like think of like Iron Maiden, for example. Like, okay, like I love Maiden, and I love Priest and stuff like that. But you know what I absolutely love about Maiden and makes me love them more? The fact that Bruce Dickinson is also a pilot. And the fact that he's also a fencing instructor or whatever, right? And the fact that, it's all these things that is what makes somebody a fan of a band. It's the fact that they can find some sort of thing that they can connect with them on an almost a personal level or a hobby-based level.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so. Also, just a little quick aside, I just noticed that Jess from Juliet Ruin and Mary Z from Helion Prime just joined in. Hey, guys.
Nice. Hey, guys. How's it going?
Yeah, good. Mary was on the show last week, and Jess is on the show on Friday. So
coming up, nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
So hey guys, what's up? But yeah, no. So I guess we'll get back to so your guys' new EP. So even though you guys have 4 songs, you guys have some dickhead named James from some shitty band called Lycanthro who's singing vocals on one of them. But other than that, since I wasn't really present for most of how did the production go for it, like overall?
It was an absolute fucking nightmare, if I'm being honest with you. Every album I've done has been more of a nightmare than the one before it, which is like, I don't know why. Like, it should be the other way around. Like, we should be getting better at this, but I just feel like we're getting worse at doing it every time. It's just, I don't know. Like, the first album we had, like, a guy who produced like Rush and Sum 41 and stuff like that, and it was like, okay, that's cool. And then we went smaller scale the next one, and then I opened up my own studios and I started doing it. But it's like, yeah, it was a bit of a nightmare. I wrote most of these songs probably about 3 years ago. I actually wrote them before we released the previous album.
Oh, jeez.
Just because that album took a long time to mix, and I was kind of like, I don't know, I was just in the mood to write, so I just wrote a bunch of music, and we just didn't do anything with it because we were like, we had to wait for that album to come out, and we had the record deal at the time, so it was, and then now that we're able to do whatever we want, we thought, okay, now let's start releasing these as EPs. So no, it was an absolute nightmare, and I think like we had actually like re-recorded a lot of parts because number one, I'm a perfectionist. Number two, I'm an idiot. Number three, I'm insane. And number four, I can say the same about everybody else in my band. So we're just all nuts. And we thought, we could just keep making this better and just try to find ways to really maximize the potential of what we all can do as individuals, because we all have different skill sets, right?
Yeah, and I can totally relate with the whole like recording everything is just a huge nightmare, because we haven't announced anything yet, but we have some new material coming out very soon as well. And let me tell you, it's one of these things where I found that with us is that we do get better every time, but there's always something that happens, whether it be in the music side, the production side, or even the personality side. There's always some sort of hurdle that we don't expect coming. Yeah. And it just completely, like, for example, for some of these new songs, it's a funny story. Literally, almost everybody involved in this production had some sort of, like, inescapable delay that wasn't their fault. Like for example, the guy our engineer who recorded it, who, like, did all the edits, halfway through production, he had a kid.
Oh, there you go.
So that completely and again, nothing wrong with that, and they had, like, nothing wrong with that, and it's not his fault at all, but it's one of those things where, like, it's like,
I mean, it's a little bit his fault. It's a little bit his fault. But
well, yeah, it's one of these things where, like, and then even I find that, I guess maybe it's just because we're so self-critical of ourselves, like, as musicians, but there's always something that happens whenever we record anything where it's just like, why didn't I see that coming? Now it's going to take longer.
Yeah.
We've had to re-record a bunch of stuff as well. It's because of COVID. All of our new guys, like all of our new members, well, not all of them, but some of them recorded, not the whole album, but just parts.
Yeah.
But we all have home recording setups now because we can't go to a studio. So I'll tell our guitar player, Forrest, okay, record me this, send it to me, I'll slap an amp simulator on it, and I'll send it to the mixing guy. Like, that happened a lot,
Well, yeah, I mean, dude, with us, like, that was an issue, too, because we had started recording this, obviously, well before COVID, but then we didn't really get into the meat of it until COVID started. But, again, in my infinite wisdom, I decided to do a thing, because initially, we weren't even going to release. Initially, this was supposed to be an album. Funny enough, this was supposed to be an album for another band I was starting. Wasn't even supposed to be a Malacoda release. And then that band kind of fell apart behind the scenes before we even announced a band name. And then I was like, well, I wrote all the music, so I might as well, we'll just make some changes. It'll make it a little bit more Malacoda sounding. And then I thought, let's just release it as singles. So we have different drummers on every song, because we were like, we've never really had like a proper drummer that did everything for us, like, live and writing and all that. So it was like, fuck it, let's just hire some drummers. We had a lot of friends that play drums in different bands, and we basically were like, yeah, let's just do it. Every single's gonna have a different drummer. Genius. Yeah, we're so dumb because that meant that every single song we had to approach differently from a mix perspective. And of course, I was the jackass who had to mix most of it. So it was very hard to mix these and try to get them to sound somewhat cohesive.
Yeah, it's like, oh look, it's like, oh yeah, the mic placements are slightly different in each drum set.
Different drum kit, different drummer. Every drummer has a different feel too. Like one drummer hits his snare a hell of a lot harder than another one. It isn't to say the other one's doing a bad job. It's just different feel, and you've got to approach it, I guess, a little bit differently sonically. But it's like, so all these songs, I've always said for these songs, and we've got 2 more EPs coming out later this year. I've always said the way to treat these is to kind of treat them as each song as if they should stand on their own, right? Mm-hmm. They're more meant to be. There's no cohesive story in the lyrics. There's no cohesive vibe. They're all, somewhat supposed to be their own thing. But yeah, dude, with COVID, it was like we had to record like guitars and bass and a ton of other stuff, and it was like nobody in my band knew really how to record themselves. I think like Wes, I think he had like some sort of dinky little, I don't know what it was, like a Native Instruments thing. And half the time he couldn't figure out how to get it to work. And it was a lot of like going on Zoom or whatever, screen sharing and going, yeah, dude, this is what you should be looking at. And he'd be like, I don't see this at all. And I'm like, oh, fuck, okay. So yeah, that was fun.
It was the same thing for us actually, because yesterday, we haven't actually released this like as a band yet, because we can't until after a few months. But that tribute album that we're on came out, the Running Wild thing, and we did, and that whole song that we did, it was our very first time doing it, and it sounded amazing at the end, but we all had to record it from home. Like our drum, like as I've told you before, Panos is still in Greece right now because of COVID, and he has a friend there who owns a studio, so he went there, recorded the drums, sent them to me, and I had the delightful task of editing the drums.
So fun. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and I had to do it all by hand because I tried to be cheeky and use Beat Detective, and I'm just like, it wasn't working. Yeah, Panos is the kind of drummer that Beat Detective fucking hates because he'll do all these really weird little stuff. So I try and Beat Detective. I'm like, no, this sounds like shit, and so I had to edit the whole thing by hand, to the point where I was even doing it when like back when the lockdown finished. I had a friend over, and we were hanging out while I'm doing it, and he's like, oh, what are you doing? I said, oh, I'm drum editing, and I remember he's like, why do you have to do that? I'm just like, and I went on this gigantic freaking rant, and then by the end of it, he was like, but still, man, I don't know why you should do that. Like, shouldn't the drummer like be on time? And I'm just like,
yeah,
what did I just say?
Yeah, latency and just the way things all. Yeah, I mean, Beat Detective. Because I've been a recording engineer for like 12 years now, and I've worked out of commercial studios, and I can count the amount of times I've used Beat Detective successfully on one hand.
Yeah.
Even like for stuff that's even more simple, I find that what it'll do is you'll kind of be like, okay, it's a quick fix, but then you won't notice something that it's fucked up because it might be one little thing, and then it might throw your whole thing off, and then by that point you've mixed the whole record, and then your client, like uncle, notices it, and you go,
it's always that one guy who you wouldn't think notices it, but they do. Yeah. Like, it's even the same thing with some of our new stuff. I would show the mixes to my friends who they're not even into metal, and I remember, and they'll either hear something or they'll give me like some advice, which normally I'd be like, fuck off, but I'm like, that actually works. Like in one of our songs, we have like a piano track, and right when the piano ends, when the guitar starts, and then he's just like, he listens to me, he goes, dude, that sounds really awkward. Like, move the piano so it has a little bit of a sustain, then start the guitars. And I'm like, fuck off, you know what you're talking about. Then I try it, and I'm like, oh, he was right.
Yeah, sometimes it takes like, somebody's ears who, isn't a musician to think, like, they're just thinking like a listener, right? And I know, I mean, if you're writing the music, recording the music, producing the music, mixing it, editing it, all that crap, your ears start to get you know, tired, they get fatigued, and you start to lose scope of the whole project. And it's, yeah, sometimes you need a fresh perspective, and sometimes the best fresh perspective is a dude that doesn't know anything about any of that stuff and is just approaching it as somebody who likes listening to music.
Yeah, and I heard a piece of advice I heard years ago is that, and it rings very true, is that it's if you show your record to someone who doesn't like the genre that you play, and if they say it's good, then you know it's good.
Yeah.
Because my close group of friends were, aside from one of them, they're not really metalheads. They're more like into like, well, you stuff that you like. Some of they're into like goth and post punk and stuff like that, and a lot and like the really atmospheric-y stuff. And I show them this, and as I said, it's just like they're able to point things out that I'm like, oh shit, I should have seen that.
Yeah, it's funny, like what people can hear. I mean, and especially when you start, like when you're mixing or working on a project or a song for an extended period of time, it's funny like how much you realize that like you're missing when you're listening to it, when you've listened to it that long. Like it's amazing sometimes.
Yeah, it's true. And not even just with like our own songs, but like I've over this pandemic, I've been trying to work on more vocals at home, and I remember like trying to figure out harmony parts is the fucking worst. And I'll be trying to figure it out for hours, come back 2 days later, and I'll get it on the first try. I'll be like, oh, that's what it was.
Yeah, it's funny, man. Like even like me too. Like you know, and I'm like, you know, I'm doing like a million vocal layers in my recordings usually. Like it's just about creating that big kind of, you know, choir sound with a lot of Malacoda songs. And it's like, man, some days I just have really bad days where I couldn't hit a note if my life depended on it. And it's, I don't know, it's either because I'm in a bad mood or just my throat's acting a little bit funny, or it's just, I don't know. It's weird, man. And we're singers. We're supposed to be pains in the asses. We're temperamental, right?
And one of the things I remember I heard, well, I heard this from Paula Blaze from Blackguard, actually. He told me once, he's like, the voice is a fucking fickle bitch, man.
Yeah, it's true, man. Like, there's some songs, like, where I've been, you know, the last Malacoda release had a lot of death metal vocals on it, which was something we only really experimented with loosely on the previous EP, Ritual Saturna. But the last record has, like, almost an overabundance of death metal vocals. And you know, I tried reining them back a little bit to get more balance, but it's something that I've experimented with a lot more since then. And it's like, even like just doing something that's different as a vocalist, like going from cleans to growls, or if you're mainly a growler, going to cleans, it's a whole other skill set. And it adds, you know, if you're a dynamic vocalist, it's even more temperamental some days. Some days my growls are amazing. Chances are that day my clean vocals are going to be shit, and vice versa, right? It's just weird. It's just weird how it works.
Yeah, and exactly. And I find that even though that like you will do like all the training in the world and all that stuff, there's some days where, like, as I said, Mary Z was just in here a minute ago, and she was my vocal coach. And when she taught me how to do all this stuff properly, I was like, oh, it's a lot easier now. Some days I still can't do it because my throat just decides not to work that day. It's just like, even before, like, one of the worst things that happened recently was right before, like a week before the pandemic hit, we did our last show, and it was with Lycanthro here in Ottawa. And that was, I just started doing the lessons, and I was just starting to refigure out how to do stuff. I'm like, all right, it's gonna be great. I'm gonna sing awesomely at this show. I wake up that day and I have a cold, and that was one of the worst shows I've ever played in my entire life.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I know. There's been times too. Thankfully, I don't think I've ever been sick during a show. I could be wrong, but nothing's coming to mind. Oh, actually, no. The last time I came to Ottawa, you were at this show. The day we left, because we were coming up to Ottawa first, run that small run of shows we did. No, that was the second show. The first show was Barry, I think. So
You've been here twice. You've been here twice, right?
yeah, this is the second time we came up.
Oh, the second time.
The second time we came up, I actually that morning, as I'm loading our, we have the big stupid rack mount unit that holds all of our stuff. I went to go load that into the truck, and literally the minute I lifted it up, I heard and I threw up my back.
Oh,
but it was so bad that I actually I was having a hard time breathing. Like the guys in my band were like laughing at me because I was wheezing like an old man. Because every time I'd laugh or whatever, like I'd wind myself, and it was like, fuck, this is really bad. So it's like right before the show, and I'm like, guys, I don't know if I'm going to be able to sing. And they're like, no, you'll be fine. And I think my bass player he grabs my arm and he I don't know, he does something, and I'm like, oh wow, you cracked my back. That actually helped, and that was good, and I was actually able to go through the show, but it was really fucking hard.
Yeah,
I didn't have all my breath, right?
Yeah, I as in that's similar stuff has happened to me too. Like there was I've told this story on this show before, but there was a time where I almost passed out on stage.
Oh, that's always good.
This close. Well, it's because we were opening for Power Glove actually, and it was at Mavericks, and it was on the hottest day of the year that year. And the AC in the venue was broken.
Oh,
and that show, I decided to wear something different because it was the nerdy metal stuff. So I decided to wear these WWE Jeff Hardy armbands I had when I was a kid. I put them on, and it was so hot on that stage that literally the only time ever happened after the show, I said to the guys I'm wheezing, guys, just pack my stuff up for me just this once, please. And then I go to the bathroom, have 2 water bottles, just go into one of the stalls still fully clothed.
Oh no.
Just to be able to, and then I think I literally laid on the sidewalk with my shirt off for an hour outside because it was so bad.
One of those days.
Passing out.
One of those days. Oh, dude, yeah. I don't know. I tend to overheat easily too. I don't know why. I'm not even I'm not the biggest guy, but I just no matter what, I'm like a heater. Even my girlfriend, she's always cold, and she just touches me. She's like, "How are you this hot?" I'm like, "I don't know. I'm just a heater, I guess." But there's definitely when you play live too. Sometimes those lights, man, you're just cooking under them.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Something just happened with the audio. Can you
Yo.
Oh man, shit.
You can't
So
hear me?
someone just called me right now, and that just fucked up the audio. Jesus. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Yeah, for some reason I can't hear. I can hear you, but you're really, really low now.
Oh, that's weird. Even if I move my mic up closer?
Yeah, you're still really low for some reason.
Weird.
I've turned everything all the way up. What the fuck?
Yeah, I didn't touch anything, so.
Man. That's annoying. I can still hear you. It's just it's not as well as I was. Usually when I do one of these things, I tell people, I'm like, guys, don't call me during this time.
Yep. Yeah.
Or I mute all of the group chats I'm in. I'm just ugh.
Do you need me to scream into the mic?
Yes, I think so. I'm gonna try and see if I can go in a different room just so I can hear you better.
Sure.
Man, this is annoying. How about now?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, there we go. Yep, there we go.
Weird.
That was, oh man, I won't say who it is on here, but I'm gonna kill whoever freaking just called me. I was like, no, I told them I'm doing this stream right now. Don't call me. Also, Panos, our drummer's here. What's up, man?
Hey, dude, how's it going?
Hey, man. Yeah, so as I said, I'm doing this from my work. I'm in the storage room at Soundcheck Studios in Ottawa, Ontario,
Nice.
just so I can hear you fine. But So I guess the next thing I wanted to bring up, talking about your guys' EP. So I remember you told me about this briefly, like when I was working on the song that I'm on. Was what are some of the like lyrical themes you can tell us?
Oh, cool. Bill Hudson guitar joined.
Yeah. I just saw that. Well, spoiler alert.
Bill
He's
Hudson that
actually
used to play.
Hmm?
He's playing on a Lycanthro song.
No, he's gonna be on the show soon. He's gonna be
sick.
doing one of these things that's soon.
Oh, that's sick. I remember when he was in a band called, I think they were called Avian. I don't know if he was like in the band or if he was just was doing solos for them, but I remember that's how I discovered him.
Yeah.
He was in a band called Celador too, I think at the time.
Yeah, and we played with him when he was in Udo, when he was with Udo Dirk Schneider. We played here in
oh, that's sick.
Yeah, that was a funny show. It was like playing a glorified house show because they had such a big setup that it took up the whole stage. So all the bands, we all played on the floor, and it was really cool because it was almost like a music video. It was like we're playing to all these people in front of us, and
wow.
They're like, it was cool. It was very unique, you know.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You were asking about the lyrics.
Yeah.
I mean, like every song's a little bit different. I mean, with me, I try not to take things too seriously, just because to me, music is all about escapism, or at least what my band is. It should be about escapism. So, like the song "Crawling Chaos" is more or less about, the H.P. Lovecraft story, Nyarlathotep, which is one of my favorite short stories. And then we had a song called "Deadlights," which was about Stephen King's It. And then the one that you're on is more just taking vague concepts from different kind of horror stories, like a little bit of, H.P. Lovecraft's Reanimator, a little bit of Frankenstein, and just kind of talking about like, people that kind of like, who are geniuses that maybe go too far and do the wrong thing for the right reasons or the other way around. So
yeah, exactly.
More or less that's what it's about. But yeah, I mean, as I said, we try not to be too serious with everything that I write lyrics about, mostly because, as I said, it's about escapism, man. Last thing I want is somebody to turn on our music and then to go like, oh wow, this has made me feel like shit.
Yeah.
That's what my goth rock band is for.
Yeah, no, and I completely agree because I find that, like, okay, I mainly think that if you're in a kind of band like yours or ours, that it should be about escapism. But I found that because of the pandemic, I've actually recently been writing not a lot, but a couple of personal-ish songs. And they've turned out, I think, some of the best I've written, I think, personally, just because the lyrics really came together great, and so I think every band should have like a couple of personal songs here and there, because I think but at the same time we all play melodic metal, so it has to be about dragons and killing and stuff like that.
Yeah, like I mean, like if you look like the first Malacoda album is pretty much every song except for maybe one or two is about something personal to me. And there's a few songs in Ritualis Eterna that is. And then as soon as Restless Dreams came out, we wanted to do a concept album based on Silent Hill. But I mean, I still found that there was some things I could put in of myself in that, because it's, it touches everything from depression to relationships to whatever. And I think, like, I always try to keep my lyrics somewhat vague enough in certain songs so that way somebody can attach their own meaning to it. I mean, I don't know if you could attach any meaning to anything in the song I have for it, because it's very blatantly about Pennywise. And if you can relate to that character, I mean, seek help, because you're probably a clown and that's a little creepy. But like, like the one that you're on is vague enough that I think anybody could kind of, they might remind them of somebody they know, might remind them of, a thing that they're going through. And I think there's a bit of that in a lot of our songs. So, it's about finding that balance. You don't want it to be so alienating that people just go like, it doesn't make me feel something. Mm-hmm. You still want it to touch strike some sort of chord.
Yeah, and that's also one thing that it rings true for us as well, because like at least with a lot of our songs, we have, like I said, we have about like 2 or 3 songs that are based on Skyrim, and we have one song that's on the new release coming out that's a full-on, like, I don't want to say it's anime metal, but it's based off of an anime because that's how much of a fucking nerd I am. But yeah, no, it's the song that you guys did that I'm on. When I was working on it, I actually did, like, I did realize that, like, the lyrics did. I'm like, oh, this reminds me of a few people that I've met before, you know. Like, that's what I think was really cool about that song, is that the lyrics are so vague that you could attribute them to like people that even you know in your personal life, you know. Like, I obviously won't say any names, but there's people that I've met, like, whether it was in school or whatever, who I'm like, yep, this song reminds me of them, and I hate them.
Well, it's fun. I mean, I think the greatest thing you could do as a songwriter is write a song and have a person think that it's about them. Because even if they're right or wrong, it doesn't matter. Then you've just gone, wow, you've affected this person so much that they think that you're thinking about them to the point that you wrote a song about them. You know, I mean, there's definitely people and things I've written songs about in my life too, especially on the early Malacoda records. But it's not, you know, I've never said who it is, because at the same time it's really not about that person. It's about my feelings and how that person has impacted my life.
Yeah.
Right? And it is what it is. And if somebody hears the song and is able to attach their own feelings to it, then you've won at that point. That's kind of the name of the game, man. Like, you know, there's a whole genre of music that, like, I don't think there is a single genre of music, rather, that doesn't have that effect on at least one person, you know?
Yeah, and then it's like, oh, the person thinks the song's about them, unless you're like like some chick at a party. Oh, this song's about me.
Hey, man, I mean, at that point, you're winning too, right?
Yeah, it's like very, very basic surface level lyrics. Oh my god, this. Yeah,
maybe like I don't know, what's that band called? Maybe a Steel Panther song, maybe, but I don't know.
Yeah, maybe, or maybe even like a Psycho Stick song or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually gonna say, since you're talking about, like, one of the songs is about it. It's like, if you relate to the song "Seek Help," well, maybe remember a few years ago those clown guys in England who went around scaring people. Maybe they'll relate to the song.
Yeah, those guys will definitely. Yeah, or like, you know, it was England. They were in the States too. Where at night they were just like on the sides of the road and stuff, right? Yeah.
Well, I actually love the. I highly doubt this is true, but I loved the theory that was a really big promotional stunt, because it was around the time the It remake was coming out.
Right.
I don't think it's true, but I kind of want to, because people were saying, oh, this is a guerrilla marketing ploy to get people to see the movie, and let's actually scare them with clowns. And I was literally just like, man, if that's true, that's absolutely genius.
But if it's not true, then it's even more scary.
Yeah.
I think I'd rather that not be true, and it just be the fact that there's some crazy, creepy clowns wandering around at night. You know?
Oh yeah, I remember those. Those were freaking. I remember seeing the videos, and I'd like, sure, people were getting scared. My favorite ones were like the guys in their trucks who they come out with like a 2x4. Hey, you better get back, and then they'll like run away.
Yeah, those are so good. I mean, I'm surprised nothing like that really happened, at least to my memory, in around here in Ontario.
Yeah, I don't think anything like that happened around here either. I'm from Ottawa. It's boring here.
Oh, it can't be that boring. I mean, come on. You have all the politics happen there.
Oh man, that's one of the things that I like. One thing I will say though is that I find that like most political cities are just really. Ottawa, I find it's not boring once you kind of have to dig deep to like kind of find all the cool stuff around, because You know, it's like, even like, not even just in like the metal scene, because I tell people that the metal scene in Ottawa is great, and people from other cities who have come here say that like the fans here are very supportive. Even if you're not like a big band per se,
Yeah.
people will come and people will see you. Like it's the same thing I found with a place like Newfoundland. Like we went and played that festival in St. John's. It wasn't really a festival; it was like a mini festival or whatever. Yeah, the place was sold out. It was like a 500-person venue, and it was sold out. And it was Skullfist headlining, and the other four and one local, and then it was like us, Blackmore, and Ammo. And
nice.
We're all like a bunch of schmucks from Ontario and Nova Scotia. And we're playing to this full house, and we're like, oh, and this is sick, you know? So, and I find the same thing here in Ottawa, that a lot of people, like, the scene here is that, like, sure, it's a bit smaller than places like Toronto, but it's more loyal, I find.
Yeah, I mean, I've always had fun playing Ottawa, no matter the turnout, because it's always been the people have always been what's made it, or the fans, the people, whatever, have been what's made it enjoyable. Like, I find you guys are a lot more supportive of each other, not just of each other, but of just you know, music in general. I find Toronto at times feels like it's almost a bit of a
clicky.
It's very clicky. Yeah, it's very clicky at times. I mean, I'm not even from Toronto. I'm from Oakville, right? So I don't really know what scene. I guess I'm part of the Toronto scene, but I don't know. I've always felt like an outsider at that point because it's just never been something that I've identified with.
Well, we've played Toronto a few times, and we have a few like really good friends in the Toronto scene, and I like playing there a lot. It's just the thing that I found pretty funny is whenever I'm booking a show there, like the promoter that we always have for our shows there, I'll always offer to, because I'm always on the lookout for different bands, so I'll always tell her, hey, why don't we get this band, get this band. Like, I'll offer to say, hey, if you don't have the time, I'll get the bands for you. And it's like, okay. So I'll said, and there's been many times where I've messaged bands and they'll say, oh, who's on the bill? And I'm like, oh, this person, this band.
And they don't like
they're
each
like,
other.
oh, we don't play. They're like, oh, we don't play with them. I'm like, why not? Oh, we just don't. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, they're on the show already. So you know,
it's hard. It's true, and it's hard to set up a show that way, especially with some bands that might be working on the same bill. I've very seldomly have I played a show where it's been like everybody, every band has been something where it's been like, oh, it's all complementary to each other. It's always been like, okay, here's like a brutal death metal band, and then it's a female fronted like Evanescence style band, and then it's us, and then it's like,
yeah,
you know, it's not really it's not something that and I mean, that's cool. I like that, the fact that it's diverse, and my band can kind of fit into a lot of different areas because we aren't just, you know, just a death metal band or a power metal band or whatever, but it's hard to find things where you can kind of create a consistent scene, I guess.
Yeah, and there was and I remember that there was a few, like, was it last week? Yeah, like about exactly a week ago, I was talking with on this with Joe and Lisa from Sovereign Council and Dark Moon Productions. They're like the people here who do like all the music videos and all that stuff. And one thing we were talking about is that, like, yeah, our scene isn't very big, but we're all buddies, you know, like we all, and I find that a lot of the bands, a lot of us, like, aren't the same genre, you know, like whenever, we always joke about whenever a big band comes through, like when we played with Hammerfall or Unleash the Archers or Battle Beast or whoever, it was always the same band's opening because it was the only ones that fit. It was like, us, our friends band Scepter, and then like our friends band Infrared, which they're not power metal at all, but they're thrash, but they're like melodic enough. You know? It's like yeah, we don't sound like them, but we're not like we're not like a Slayer thrash, or we're like a more melodic thrash. So
it fits, yeah.
But yeah, no. As I said, like the thing I do like here is the camaraderie. Like we're all friends, we all help each other out, and whenever a new band comes here, like you guys or Uriel or Litharo or whoever, they always get welcomed with open arms, you know? Like I've had lots of bands tell me how much they love playing Ottawa, and they're like, oh, I wish more cities were so supportive like this, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, as I said, every time we've played Ottawa, we've always had a good time, and we've always made like good friends there too. We've like I still talk to you. Like I don't know when did I meet you? It was a couple of years ago at least.
Yeah, it was like when you guys played the first time. I remember.
So like that would have been like 2017 or 2018,
Yeah, yeah.
probably.
It was when it was with you guys and Uriel, and I went because two of my friends' bands were opening.
Oh right, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, that was when we did the Restless Dreams tour. That's right.
Yeah, and it was funny because I didn't actually, because I'm really good friends, especially with Gaia now, but I never actually didn't talk to any of them at that show, to be honest. I even joked about this with her because I didn't actually get to know them until, because I used to go to like shows in Montreal all the time, like all the bands that wouldn't come here, and I kept bumping into their guitar player all the time.
Yeah.
And we to the point that's when he's like, "Oh, we'll have you guys on our album release show," and that's when I got to know all of them. And
Right.
do you remember? It's weird. I remember that first show more than the second one. Do you remember who played with you on the second one?
The second one, yeah, it was Ben Bertrand's
Oh,
Gothenburg.
yeah, Gothenburg. Yeah.
My Frost, who is the Toronto band that was doing a few shows with us, and then Sims.
Oh yeah, from Kingston. Yeah.
Yeah. That was the other band.
I remember that. Yeah. Ben's always great.
Yeah, Ben's cool. I mean, we were trying to get his other band to do it, but they couldn't because they were playing too soon too. That.
Oh yeah. Which his other band? Which one?
Oh, I didn't know he was in Whispers in the Maze. I didn't know he was in another one.
I kid. He's in another one. He's in one of our good friends' bands called Misshapen. So that's why I'm like,
yeah, that one too. Yeah, I remember that one too.
There's a big kind of thing in the Ottawa metal scene which he kind of put this together. It was called the Project Gothenburg Family Tree, where it's like all the members and it branches out to all the different bands that the members like oh, this member's member of this band, and then this other member in that band's a member of this other band. So it's like this one big family tree pretty much. It's cool.
That's pretty cool. I mean, that's clever too, because in that way you can figure out where everybody is and is going.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I remember that show. I remember that show now. That was a good show. The second time you guys came. Also, I don't know if you saw, but because I know both times you played Decuff, they renovated it.
Last I heard that, I thought they were closing down.
Oh, what happened? What?
And then Mavericks reopened, and I was like, okay, I guess the Cuff's done. And then I went and looked. I think it was like last week. I was like, holy shit, the Cuff's actually like opening up again.
And the stage is bigger now.
Is it still upstairs? It's
yeah,
like
it is.
Same venue size and all that.
It's the same place, but they stripped everything. Like they took. Like I was there. I went there during the summer because I went to one of those. Our friend's band was playing one of those like socially distanced shows at Mavericks. And I kind of snuck up to Decuff, and I opened the door, and I just see there's just big piles of wood on the floor, and everything's gone. And I'm like, ooh, I wonder what this is going to be like. And they replaced the bar. They made the stage bigger, which is great. Because everyone always complains about how small the Decuff stage is.
Yeah, I remember when Uriel played it, they couldn't all fit on the stage. Bass player was playing in the crowd.
Oh, the guitar player, too.
Oh, and the guitar player was, too. That's right.
Yeah, and... yeah, that was, but yeah, no, they reopened because what happened was with Mavericks is that the guy who owns it now is the same dude who owns that place, the Coven.
Okay.
Yeah, you know the restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah, he bought it and he bought the building. Like he's now the landlord. Like he didn't buy the building, he bought the building just so it wouldn't close.
Wow.
And he opened up Mavericks again, and he renovated it. It looks even better now. And then he rents Decuff to somebody now, and they like strip the whole thing. So it's really nice to not to say that the previous owners didn't, but it's nice to have people now who like genuinely care about keeping as most people would say, keeping the scene alive.
Well, it's cool because I mean, like the reason why I always liked Decuff is because it really has that kind of crusty like metal bar vibe to it. But I mean, it's also I kind of feel like that doesn't really work in New York. Yeah, like every kind of crusty punk bar, like that works. But I always found in Ontario, everybody's a little bit more I don't know, like I don't want to say conservative, but they're a little bit less extreme in some of those ways. You know, they're less adventurous, I should say.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that because that reminded me of, like, again, another story is when we played in Newfoundland. The stage, this venue was so big it had. Wait a minute. Oh my God! Called me again. And your audio just cut out again. I know how to fix it now, though. I know how to fix it now.
Yeah.
Okay, talk. Yeah, there we go. Yep, I know how to fix it now.
Hey, how's it going?
Oh my God, I'm going to. But yeah, no. What I was trying to say was, I don't remember now. I have to remember now. I think
we were talking about the cuff.
Yes, yeah. About something about, yeah, I know. But as I was saying, it's great that we have people now who like legitimately care about it and to like refurbish it, and they've been doing great in terms of like keeping the business going. Because one thing that they've been doing a lot recently with Mavericks, at least, is because we can't have any of these like metal shows or whatever. Medi thought like, oh, what can we put on there that will make us money that is warranted for people to sit down? You know, because I went to one of those socially distanced shows, and to be honest, I thought it was kind of lame because I'm like, I don't want to sit down, you know. But,
yeah, you want to like mosh and get up to the stage and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, but they've been doing stand-up comedy there more now. Like they've been.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah, like I think like once a week they have like a stand-up comedy night, and it always sells out. And it's great because at stand-up comedy you're sat down anyways, you know.
Yeah.
So they've definitely had some great ways of keeping it alive.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, I think evolution is key in this. I think COVID has forced a lot of people to, you know, change their businesses. I mean, it's either you have to adapt or you're done. I mean, like even me, like I haven't been recording many bands obviously lately because I haven't been able to get anybody in here, but I have been doing a lot more like mixing, for example, a lot more session work as a keyboardist. But I've also been doing a lot of e-learning where I've been teaching a lot of people how to use Pro Tools and how to produce, how to record from home. Because I think as a musician, that's a valid skill to have.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And one thing that I've kind of learned is that I feel like more people should learn how to record at home, because I find that in today's music industry, if you don't have at least a little bit of knowledge about recording, you're shooting yourself in the foot. Because I'm sure you've heard all the stories. I'm sure you've had all the band who comes in and think they are just into play, and you're like, and you ask them, "What's the BPM of the song?" What?
I have no idea. Oh, dude, I've you know, every other session is a nightmare sometimes. And having some sort of knowledge of, because if you think about it, having some knowledge of recording also makes you a better musician, right? You know, BPM, you know, what's that? Well, it's your tempo. I mean, it's not something that only the drummer should know. I mean, the drummer should know that, but if you all know it, then you can lock in and you can practice at home with a metronome. You can, you know, learn how to count to 4.
And that's the thing that I was, Indonesian metals here. Sup, man? And, but as I was saying, that's the same thing with me, is because at home we did that whole Running Wild cover just from home, and it turned out amazingly just because it was so locked in, because we all had to, instead of being in a studio, all had to take the time. We're on our own, and we're like, okay, yeah, we have to do this certain way. And it's been a process we found that worked for us. And it was one of those, like, why didn't I think of that sooner? Because now we're even doing, like, even though our new material isn't even out yet, we're doing demos for more new stuff. And we've just been doing them. It's literally just been, okay, record your parts at home, send them to me. I'll slap the amp simulators on. I recently bought the Diesel VH4, and it's so good that I just need it. I just put that on everything. I'm like, okay, slap the Diesel DH4 on everything, dial it in however, and then we have our demos. And it's been a way that's been working for us. Like, obviously, we're not going to release it that way, but just for
Or just to be able to to get ideas fleshed out. I mean,
Yeah,
if you can demo yourself like at will without it costing you anything, and you can get it to sound somewhat decent, like where you can get the idea across, then I mean, you know, you're only a few steps away from making it a fully fledged production.
yeah, and it's been great because one thing that I'm sure, I don't know how you feel about this, but it's like for me personally, as much as I love being a vocalist, recording vocals at home is the fucking worst because I realize that I'm so self-critical of myself that I need that other person there to tell me like, oh, this works, this doesn't. But doing recording demos at home is great because because I find that like I've had this problem in the past where I'll have like the regular vocal, like the lead vocal down, and I want to do like all these harmonies, and either we won't have the time to do them or I haven't written them all down or anything like that. So now I can do them all at home, and as soon as I go to like an actual studio to record it, I'll just have it right here, like, okay, I have to sing this and this part, this and this part. You know, it's been great.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, recording at home, it can be kind of funny, you know, especially if, you know, not the only one that lives at home, and you know, you're conscious a bit of how you sound. I mean, I get like that too. If, you know, if somebody came up to you right now and said, "Hey, sing me a song," you'd be like, no, you know, like.
So when your family comes over for Thanksgiving, and then they're all like, "Oh, play us something."
Yeah. And then I go, "Oh yeah, let me grab my Cannibal Corpse guitar tab book. Let's do Fucked with a Knife." You know, like
Let's Black on Blood.
Yeah, or that, or Hammer Smash Face or whatever. Yeah, no, but as a vocalist, it can be kind of funny. Yeah, I've always found that, like, I actually learned a lot of my vocal just from recording myself. I've always said if I didn't know how to record myself, I never would have gotten comfortable as a vocalist, and I would never have improved, because being able to record myself at that early stage helped me be able to listen to it. Because, you know, when you sing and you hear a recording of your voice, it sounds different. Mm-hmm. Because it's not, you know, you're hearing your voice in your head, right?
I hate that so much.
I know. I don't know a single person who does. I mean, even, you know, I don't like the sound of my own voice. I mean, then I hear stupid things like, you know, Devin Townsend hates the sound of his own voice. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, come on.
Yeah, like, Devin Townsend's a great singer, you know? It's like,
yeah, he's fantastic.
Yeah, I find that your voice when you record it's similar of like the voice when you're like your dad has his home camera and you're like, oh, that's what I sound like. I find that's the same.
Yeah, no, it's exactly that. Yeah, or when you hear yourself on the phone or something like that, like, oh god.
Yeah, that actually is a good segue into what I was good, because that's a good segue to the last thing I was gonna say, because we have like 2 or 3 minutes left before I'm gonna call it. So
cool.
The thing I always ask everybody, because I'll, not just for the people watching, but I put things on YouTube afterwards and all that. Yep. So what advice can you give to anybody younger, whether it be to be in a band or recording or just whatever that whatever is your expertise? What kind of advice would you give to people?
Usually I say, if you're in a band, if you want to be a musician and you specifically have your mindset on doing it in the sense where you need to rely on other people to make it happen. And if you're doing music to any capacity, there's going to come a point where you will need to rely on other people. You have to have a set of, not rules, but kind of like belief, in the sense of where you go, if you're going to do this with other people, you need to have what they need from you, and what you need for them are these things. You need friendship. So you got to all respect each other on that level. Business sense. You've all got to have enough business sense to know whether or not you have business sense, at least. And the musicianship has to be there. You know, nobody wants to work with a guy who's not improving as a musician. Nobody wants to work with somebody who makes absolutely awful business decisions and just doesn't do anything for the band. And nobody wants to be in a band with a guy who's a dick. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
And, you know, at the end of the day, you might not ever see, it's art at the end of the day. Some musicians and artists don't get famous until after they died, right? So at the end of the day, you have to make it so that way, if you have those 3 things going, then you should never, you know, feel bad about doing it, because you've got friends who are helping you make it happen. You're making the right business decisions, or you're at least feeling good about your journey in the business side of things, and you're happy with the art that you're making as a musician. So if you have those three things, then you're set.
Yeah, and the thing that I also find too is that, and that's one thing that it can be kind of discouraging early on, because I'm sure you and I both have had like worked with people, at least, or even like members of the bands who just like didn't work. There was like butting heads, personality clashes, and all that, and it's frustrating. But I can, like, personally, I don't know about you, but I can safely say that the lineup we have now is probably, I feel tighter with these guys more after like less than a year than I think I have with any other of the lineups, you know?
Yeah, man. I mean, sometimes, you know, sometimes that's kind of how it works. Like, if you think about it, like a lot of our favorite bands, their initial lineup wasn't their final one, right?
Wasn't their classic lineup.
Or wasn't even their classic one, right? And it's kind of like, you know, there's a reason for that. And I think that, you know, if you look at things from like another perspective, not from like a metal or band perspective, but even like from a pop perspective or something that's like more solo actish, all the people behind the scenes are constantly changing. Yeah. Or at least there's you know, so it's in a band, it's like, you know, your bass player might also be your manager, your band manager, and your guitar player might be the creative output of the band. He might be the sole guy writing everything. So it's kind of like, you know, if people are having these other duties and they're not fulfilling them, then they might not, they might not stick around. Somebody's going to get fed up at some point. So yeah, no, I think, you know, the guys that, you know, that I'm working with right now, I think, you know, they're pretty good guys. You know, they haven't really let me down yet. So, you know, if they're watching, then, you know, but yeah, it's
don't fuck with me.
it's more like, you know, it's music is a journey. It's something where you're always going to be learning and growing, and I find that the minute you stop learning and growing, you kind of like lose that spark. You know, so
yeah, for sure. All right, so it's 8:32 now, so I think I'll call it. But thank you so much for being on the show, man. It was great to catch up with you and all that.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. I'll just say the little thing that I usually say in between at the end. So go follow Lucas and follow Malacoda. Go buy their new EP when it comes out. This freaking bastard is on it as well. And this dickhead who's terrible at singing.
No, you're not terrible at singing.
Like, follow us at Lycanthro Metal, and tune in on Friday. We're going to have Jess and Kent from Juliet Ruin on the show. So tune in for that. But in closing, thank you very much, man. It was awesome.
Thanks for having me, man. And yeah, man, April 2nd is when the EP comes out, and that's when they'll be able to hear your voice on it. So yeah, so go buy the EP when it comes out. It's great. And yeah, so see you, bud. See you later, man.